Hi there, I'm Anna at VSAC, and I'm here talking with Brian Moegelin, who's going to tell us a little bit more about his career. So, Brian, could I have you start by telling us what do you do for work?
Sure, Anna. I am the owner of Brian's North End Automotive. I've been an automotive technician for a little over 20 years. I graduated from Vermont Tech back in '99, and and I am probably one of the very few people in this world that really enjoys what they do.
That's great. Can you tell us a little bit more about what your job entails?
Sure, sure. So, before I took over the business, I was the head tech here for about 15 years. And a lot of that I constantly say to my wife that, I have not seen or know of a job that I feel really challenges every aspect of you more than working on cars. So, I believe that number one, like the first thing that really needs to happen is, creating an awesome relationship with anybody that walks in here. So being able to communicate like what goes on with a car and putting it in a way that somebody who might not necessarily understand how a car works, and communicating that to them so they can kind of be on the same page as to, like, okay, why is their car broken? What do they need to do better as far as maintaining the vehicle? Why would they have to put certain money into a vehicle? What are things that tend to go bad depending upon the vehicle that you work on? Um, the other thing that's great about this career is that you're constantly learning. So as technology, like when I first started out, 20 years ago, I was working on cars that were, pretty common back in like the 70s and early 80s. So everything was kind of just transitioning over from everything being mechanical to adding a computer to control, the various functions of how a car works. And then, as technology has progressed, we've gotten into fuel injection, we've gotten into fiber optics, we've gotten into, various aspects of running, whether or not it's magnetic propulsion, EV vehicles. I'm sure everybody knows about EV vehicles and the future of electric vehicles, getting into hybrids. I mean, this is all stuff that I need to know. But accompanied with that is like, your plumber, for instance, when they might come over to your house to fix your heater. There's a lot of plumbing, there's a lot of hydraulics that I have to learn, hydraulic principles as far as how a vehicle works and how hydraulic principles adapts to vehicle propulsion. Knowing electricity, knowing computers. I mean, I had to basically when I graduated VTC, I got a associate's degree in computer technology as well. Because I needed to be able to be a technician and not just a backyard mechanic that changes brakes and tires, but I needed to be able to, if I really wanted to be top in my field, I had to be able to not only talk to the person, talk to the car, figure out what's going on, and be able to fix it and make sure the everyday person that trusts me with their vehicle is happy, but also has a reliable vehicle. What else?
So I think you talked a little bit about this already, but what are some of your favorite things at your work?
Well, I had mentioned talking to people. So like I'm sure within the last, what seems like has been 5 minutes. It's probably only been like a minute and a half. I like to talk. And I think that, probably one of the biggest things that's affected me over COVID is that I do believe one of the reasons why my shop is so popular is that I really enjoy making relationships with people, building friendships. I would have to say pretty much everybody that lives in the old North End or in and around Burlington that comes here, I am friends with. I and and I've trained and encouraged my technicians to have that same rapport with the people that come in here. You know, Tiffany, for instance, you know, I've known them for years, her and John. I mean, they're fantastic people. And it's really important to me that if somebody is going to, you know, drop X amount of dollars with their car, because, you know, mechanics, you know, one of the stereotypes of mechanics is that it's like a whole other language. So when people come in here, or people go to their mechanic, you know, there's always the thought in the back of their head, you know, oh, am I going to get screwed over, you know? And so, you know, I have to try to be an advocate to, you know, reverse that stereotype. And the only way that I've seen or figured out to achieve that is to be able to build those relationships. So, like, you know, for instance, I was saying COVID, that's probably affected me the most because, you know, even though I was deemed essential, I didn't feel like it was okay for me to stay open for oil changes and tires. And so I shut down voluntarily for a couple of weeks. And of course, you know, having to social distance and everything's scary. And it took away that like interpersonal, you know, person to person conversation that I would normally have out in front of my shop or in my office, were people just stopping by on a regular basis just to say hi, you know, people that I've dealt with for years. So that's been like a huge struggle for me because that's probably one of the biggest things that I love about my job, you know. That and you know, I do love cars. There's just something about cars that I have pretty much had a passion for since I was a little kid. Um, what let's see, what else? I love training people. I love I love being able to, you know, broaden someone's mind on different ways of looking at how to get things done. You know, I also take on a lot of interns, male and female. I encourage women big time to get involved in such a male dominated field because it's so important. And honestly, you know, out of all the interns that I've had over the course of probably the last 10 years, I would have to say that every woman that has been in my shop that has interned with me has blown away any male candidate that has come in here, not only with just being prepared, depth of knowledge, willing to work, willing to excel. Um, there is, I do believe that being a blue collar worker, not only being able to take your hands and apply them to your mind and then put it and fix something that's in front of you is a dying breed. You know, there's not, um, there's a huge demand for plumbers and contractors and woodworkers and people that have that ability to take technology that has evolved to a certain point, whether or not it's even playing a video game or knowing how to use a computer and using that to and implementing that into something mechanical, okay, to influence how transportation in the world, you know, how that moves forward, you know, whether even whether it's cars, whether it's trains, whether it's planes, you know, there's so many different possibilities, but finding people that will have a passion for it, want to go down that road is it's getting really hard to find people. And so because of that as well, the amount of money that people are willing to pay to get qualified individuals that really know their stuff is, I mean, it's you get paid well. You can make at least six figures, you know, if you really learn your stuff.
Could you walk us through what a typical day might look like for you?
A typical day?
Yeah, what does kind of a typical day look like in your life?
Boy, that's a loaded question. You know, I have always believed that. So one of my idols growing up was Larry Bird, and he wrote a book called Drive, and it was basically somewhat of an autobiography. And one of the things that he had talked about in his book that he felt like probably made him the most successful was that he was always the first person at practice, and he was always the last person to leave, you know. And so, and I do believe in that, and I believe that that's true. So my day is very involved. You know, I wake up at the crack of dawn. Usually it's around like 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning. Okay. That's like my quiet time. And I usually get to the shop somewhere around 6:30, quarter or 7. And as soon as I open my garage doors, my phone is off the hook, you know. And so for the first 2 hours of the day, it's helping people park and drop off and asking them questions and seeing how they're doing and having, you know, those conversations. And at the same time, you know, talking with people on the phone about making other appointments or other things that people might have acquired the day before that have concerned them. And so they're calling me, hey, can I drop the car off or whatever? And here I'm already a couple weeks out, and I have a parking lot that's full of cars, and I got 8 people in front of me, and the phone is still, you know, off the hook. And then setting up, you know, all my technicians with jobs. Generally, and I don't know if you know where I am. I'm on the corner of North Ave and North Street. So if you ever drive by our shop from about 7 a.m. until probably around lunchtime, the entire parking lot is just full of cars. Like, you can't really go anywhere. Okay. And so having to deal with all of that, you know, on a daily basis is pretty crazy. And then of course, you know, you know, for every vehicle that comes in, you know, you have the technician will check it out thoroughly, regardless of what they're doing to the vehicle. So if there is something that I need to communicate with a customer that they may or may not have known about the vehicle, like, you know, they're about to, you know, lose their brakes, or they might need some tires, or setting up a schedule and a budget for them over the course of the next 6 months. They're just like, hey, Anna, you know, you're going to need brakes on your car here probably within the next month or so. It's going to be $350. You should budget for that. And those are the types of conversations that I have, you know, probably 100 times a day. And then, you know, the shuffle of cars in and out, and then billing, you know. But I have a well-oiled machine over here. So everybody has their role, everybody has their duty, and we work really well together to really. I believe fully that we have a very special thing going on over here. You know, it's not something that a lot of businesses don't have or don't see, and I'm very fortunate for that.
Yeah. What do you think would make a student a good fit for this kind of work? And then maybe also if they're interested in exploring it further and they're in middle or high school right now, what would you recommend they do?
You know, that's a really good question. I find that most people that want to get into doing any type of auto repair or have a passion for cars, they are somewhat unaware of how physically demanding the job is. And let me put it this way. So, like, regardless of how smart you are or what your capabilities are, as far as, you know, you could be the most amazing technician out there, okay? But in Vermont, you know, we have tire season twice a year, okay? And so, you know, nobody looks forward to tire season. Tire season sucks, you know, it's just, but, you know, where we are and, you know, given our environment, it's something that we deal with. So most people, and most of my interns I don't think realize how physical this job actually is. You know, I can't even tell you how many times I've been to the ER with metal in my eyes, or have had to have stitches in my fingers. I'm 42 years old, and I definitely am going to have some arthritic joints, as I get older and older. But I always equate tire season to, if anybody knows about weightlifting or CrossFit or anything like that. If anybody knows what a clean and jerk is, it's basically like, taking weight off the floor and, bringing it up and pushing it over your head. You do that 100 times a day, with, 30 pounds or more, every day for 8 weeks, twice a year, it's pretty demanding. Um, the other thing is too is that there are some there are variances of mechanics and technicians. There are, like, for instance, when I went to Vermont Tech, I started out with about 30, I want to say like 32 or 33 people in my class, and I wound up graduating with 8. And then mainly it was because there's a large break between people that know how to fix things mechanically and being able to incorporate those mechanical aspects into the latest technology. Even with EVs, there's still a lot of mechanical aspects to the vehicle. They're definitely going to be more reliable, but there's still a lot of mechanical aspects. And so there's kind of like there's a break there, where it's difficult. Like, for instance, I grew up being able to change my brakes in my backyard. I grew up being able to take apart an engine and putting it back together. Okay. And it wasn't until I was in my late teens and went to, Vermont Tech, where I learned about, computerized controls and implementing, electronic devices to control mechanical devices into vehicles. And so it's completely the opposite nowadays. I find that, like, with my younger technicians, like, for instance, one of them, Kai, he graduated at the top of his class at UVM with a mechanical engineering degree. Okay. But a lot of that is math and computers and physics and stuff like that. He didn't really have a great mechanical background. One of my other techs, he was originally a computer technology major at Vermont Tech, and he came and interned with me and fell in love with the job. So he had a huge computer background, okay, which I think a lot of younger people do, because, I mean, I don't know how old you are, but when I was growing up, I mean, I had the Apple IIe, and they were just being implemented in schools. Everything was green. There was no color screens. Everything was dot matrix, And so nowadays, I mean, you got, your smartphones. I didn't grow up with that crap. And so there's people are a lot more technically savvy, because of technology. And then, working backwards into the mechanical aspect, it's a new wave of people getting in there that surprises a lot of people. And I think that's one aspect as to why there's a shortage of people that want to be automotive technicians out there.
Great. And then I think you kind of touched on this already, talking about your education and some of the education of some of your folks. But what kind of education or training do you think a young person should be thinking about down the road if this is a career that they want to follow?
The only thing that I could say is that, I mean, I guess that's really a hard one, because I consider being a mechanic or a technician as being a true jack of all trades. You really, really, really need to know your stuff if you want to succeed in this career. Like I said, I mean, basically, when I graduated Vermont Tech, I moved down to Florida for a very short amount of time. But because I had a degree in automotive and computer technology, and this is 20 years ago, the franchise that I was with down in Clearwater, Florida, they paid me 6 figures right out of college. Okay. Which is kind of unheard of in this field. Okay. But that was because I really spent the time learning my stuff, and there's a lot of, I mean, you need to know math, you need to know physics, you need to know, like I said, you got different fluid properties and principles. Science is huge, I mean, I will say that math, I always had a problem with math and calculus, but once physics was introduced to me, everything that I really had a hard time with beforehand made sense.
Mhm.
Then being able to apply that, I always hear kids nowadays, or even adults, are just like, oh, I'm taking math. I'm never going to use the Pythagorean theorem, in my adult life, and that's just simply not true. With this career, there's so much geometry. I mean, um, for instance, I had a guy who lifted his own truck, okay, and after he did the lift, he brought the vehicle in because it had a really, really, really bad vibration once you got past 30 miles an hour. And what he failed to recognize or failed to implement into his truck and this lift kit is, um, when the uh, when the engine is running, the vehicle is moving down the road, you need to have something that transfers, engine movement or power that's created by the engine through the transmission to the rear wheels in order to drive the vehicle. And how that's done is with what's called a drive shaft. And if your drive shaft is at too much of an angle, okay,
Mhm.
to try, and it's got to spin at X amount of RPMs, and that angle is too great, it's going to create a crazy vibration. So we had to measure,
Mhm.
you know, dependent upon his rate of lift, we had to measure and figure out using
Mhm.
regular geometry
Mhm.
how much lower to bring that drive shaft so he wouldn't experience a vibration at normal driving speeds.
Mhm.
You know, and that's a simple thing that we do on a regular basis. Even the whole aspect of the engine. Cylinders can only, if you have a lack of compression in one particular cylinder and the customer wants you to figure out why, and you take everything apart, one of the things that you have to do is you have to look at how true everything is. Is something completely flat? Is something completely round? Is something oblong? um, I mean, I could go on and on and on.
Mhm.
What was the question?
Education and training, and I think you hit a lot of it there.
Yeah, there's just a lot. There's just a lot. Really, the biggest thing is that if you have a passion for this, and I can tell you right now, there are places out there that, you got a bunch of kids that, have been watching Fast and Furious, or they play, all those racing games, and they think that going into a shop, and this is what I see a lot with my interns, they come in and they think, well, hey, we're going to add a supercharger to a car, we're going to add nitrous to a car, it's going to go 200 miles an hour, it's going to be fast as hell.
Mhm.
And that's just not simply that's not how it goes. I say, here's a broom,
Mhm.
that trash can over there, that needs to be emptied.
Mhm.
Okay. And you have to start small,
Mhm.
and the unfortunate thing pretty much with anything in life is you got to work to
Mhm.
kind of get where you want, you know.
Hmm.
So
That was great. Anything else you would want to share with young folks?
I just it's you got to have a passion for this job. This job will break you. It has broken me in many different ways, both physically, mentally, emotionally.
Mhm.
Um, but I think, as is life, we'll do the same. Um, and if I wanted a mundane job, um, that I wasn't excited about, and I would have picked a different career. I think that it's really important. I am very grateful and blessed to have a career that I love wholeheartedly, And I feel that there are a lot of people out there that don't. So don't just go to college for a liberal arts degree, you know, figure out, you know, what you want to do and apply yourself. You know, I think that's the biggest thing. And if you truly find something that you love, you're going to have that drive. You're going to have that passion to be successful in. But, you know, that's the key thing, is just finding that one thing, you know, and you know what, it may not be just one thing. It might be a few things, but, you know, if you love it, you know, you'll succeed.